Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the show we build for you, the learner, the person who needs that concise but critically deep analysis of the technologies really shaping our world.
That's right.
We take all the source material, the research, the data, and we just try to deliver the essential knowledge, without all the noise. Our mission today is a deep dive into a company called Datadog, Inc.
And this dive, it's really not just about understanding another successful tech company. It's about grasping a fundamental architectural shift that's happened over the last decade.
A huge shift.
A huge one. I mean, Datadog didn't just capitalize on the cloud. They basically built the indispensable rearview mirror and the dashboard for it.
Right.
So for anyone who's working in or even just investing in modern digital infrastructure, understanding their story is, well, it's critical.
It's absolutely critical. We've stacked all our sources, and the story of Datadog is just a masterclass in operationalizing foresight. It really is.
That's it.
They identified this looming organizational and technical crisis that was created by cloud adoption, and they built the solution right at that intersection, that sweet spot between development speed and operational stability.
Let's just define them immediately for you. Datadog is an American company, and they provide what's called an observability service for cloud-scale applications.
Observability, we're going to be using that word a lot.
A lot. And they deliver this as a SaaS-based data analytics platform. You can think of it as a single unified brain that monitors every crucial component of a system.
Everything.
Your servers, your databases, your tools, and especially the incredibly complex distributed microservices that power modern enterprise apps.
And to give you a sense of the scale here, let's just start with the snapshot facts, the vitals. Datadog was founded way back in 2010 in New York City by Olivier, Pomel, and Alexis Lê-Quôc. Yep. They're publicly traded on Nasdaq. Ticker is DDOG.
DDOG.
And the market has certainly ratified their importance. I mean, they're already a key component of the Nasdaq 100.
Which is big.
It is. But maybe the most significant indicator of their corporate maturity is this. They are scheduled to be included in the prestigious S&P 500 index in July of 2025.
That S&P 500 inclusion, I mean, that is a massive statement. It's a statement of market relevance, of financial stability. It essentially moves them from being just another high-growth tech stock to an indispensable piece of the U.S. economy for big institutional investors.
Yeah, you have to buy it.
You have to. And the numbers, they absolutely back up that status. As of 2024, they reported very robust revenue of $2.8 billion.
Right.
And they employ approximately 6,500 people globally. So that just shows you the sustained rapid scale over their, 15-year history?
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
By first exploring the core operational friction that made this entire platform necessary in the first place. The story of massive value creation in tech, it almost always starts with identifying some specific, really visceral pain point, a pain point that customers are willing to pay, billions to solve. Yeah. For Datadog, that was the friction between developer teams and systems administration teams.
The classic divide.
The classic divide. So can you take us back to 2010? Tell us about the origins and what the founders, Olivier Pomel and Alexis Lê-Quôc, were really aiming to fix.
So the origins are really rooted in shared history and institutional experience.
Yeah.
Pomel and Lê-Quôc were already a highly cohesive unit.
They knew each other well.
Very well. They met as undergraduates at the esteemed École Centrale Paris, and crucially, they worked side by side for 9 years at a company called Wireless Generation.
Right, the education tech company.
Exactly, a technology company focused on education solutions.
So 9 years together in the trenches, dealing with really complex IT systems. That's a deep level of shared understanding.
It is a shared understanding of the technical complexity, but maybe more importantly, of the organizational dysfunction that comes with it. And the catalyst for Datadog came right after News Corp acquired Wireless Generation in 2010. They had witnessed firsthand, across a decade, the systemic failure point in enterprise IT.
And what was that?
It was the fundamental disconnect between the groups responsible for building software development, or dev, and the groups responsible for keeping that software running operations, or ops.
The sources we looked at described these two teams as often working at cross purposes. For you, our listener, what did that actually look like on the ground? How did this, this organizational friction manifest as a real technical and financial problem?
It was a conflict of incentives, a conflict of metrics even. The dev team, they're measured on speed.
Right. How fast can you ship features?
Exactly. How fast can we push out new features and updates? But the ops team, they're measured on stability. How consistently can we maintain reliability, security, and uptime?
So they're pulling in opposite directions.
Completely. So in the pre-cloud era, when something failed, a database lagged, a server went down, the debugging process was just a nightmare of finger pointing.
Because they were looking at completely different data sets, right? They had their own tools, their own dashboards.
Exactly. They had no shared context. The developer would look at their application logs and say, the code is fine, must be the infrastructure.
And the ops team.
The ops team would look at their CPU utilization charts and say, the server is fine, the new feature update must be buggy. They lacked a single unified view of the system's health. It forced them into these siloed, almost tribal warfare situations.
And all that time spent arguing is money down the drain.
It's incredibly expensive. The time spent debugging and resolving incidents, what the industry calls mean time to resolution, or MTTR, it was just agonizingly long.
So Datadog's initial mandate was born directly from this organizational gap.
Right.
To create a cloud infrastructure monitoring service that could finally bridge that divide.
Well, it wasn't just monitoring, it was about creating unified visibility. The early solution, it focused on collecting metrics from all across the stack.
From everywhere.
And presenting them through clear dashboards, sophisticated alerting based on anomaly detection, and these unified visualizations. By providing a single source of truth, a dashboard both dev and ops could look at and agree on, they could immediately pivot from who is to blame to what is broken.
That shift is everything.
It is.
And this foundational mission gave them just perfect market timing. As companies began migrating away from their stable monolithic servers and into the dynamic distributed environment of the public cloud, that friction must have just intensified tenfold.
It absolutely did. I mean, cloud environments, they're characterized by ephemeral resources, constantly changing server IDs, containerization, auto-scaling. It's controlled chaos, and it makes traditional fixed monitoring tools completely irrelevant. The complexity of a distributed system where a single click from a user might touch 20 different microservices, it made that DevOps disconnect, well, catastrophic.
So Datadog was built for that world.
From the ground up. Built to handle this elastic cloud-first reality, which positioned them perfectly to be the indispensable control layer.
That meant early integration with the emerging cloud giants was absolutely essential, right? They needed to be cloud agnostic to capture the enterprise market.
And they were just relentless about it. They didn't limit themselves to one vendor, which was a very smart move. Their early strategy involved deep integration with all three major cloud providers, Amazon Web Services, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. But they didn't stop there.
They went for the enterprise platforms, too.
Right. They also integrated with things like Red Hat OpenShift, VMware, and OpenStack. This universality, it was a very deliberate choice to make sure they could service any enterprise, regardless of its hybrid or multi-cloud strategy.
And that early confidence, that kind of strategic positioning, it must have required some serious capital, even back in those early years.
Oh, for sure. They secured a successful seed round in 2010, which brought on initial backing from some crucial early investors.
It was involved.
Firms like NYC Seed, Contour Venture Partners, and IA Ventures. This capital, it validated the belief that the cloud complexity problem was solvable, and, more importantly, that the market was ready for a centralized visibility solution.
So you can really trace their entire trajectory, their whole multi-billion-dollar valuation, back to this one core insight.
You can. Unified metrics are the antidote to decentralization and organizational friction. That's the thesis.
Okay, so we've established the why, the organizational necessity. Now let's get into the what and the how. The market terminology, as we mentioned, it has evolved from just simple monitoring to comprehensive observability. What is the technical distinction there, and how does Datadog's product portfolio align with that modern concept?
The shift is massive, and it's really critical for you, the learner, to understand this difference. Monitoring traditionally involves checking known variables and metrics.
Like, is the CPU over 80%?
Exactly. Is the queue depth exceeding X? Is the server CPU spiking above Y? If you don't already know what question to ask, monitoring often fails you.
Okay, so what's observability?
Observability, by contrast, is the ability to understand the internal state of a complex system just by looking at its external outputs. It's the ability to ask any arbitrary question about your system's performance, even questions you didn't anticipate. And you do that using three core pillars of data.
And those three pillars, metrics, logs, and traces, that's what Datadog has engineered its entire platform around.
Absolutely. Metrics are your numerical time series data. Think CPU usage, request counts, error rates. They tell you that something is wrong.
The what?
The what. Then you have logs. These are discrete textual event data messages generated by code, system events, transaction details. They tell you the context of what happened.
The why.
The why, exactly. And finally, you have traces. These are records of the end-to-end user path, showing how a single request travels across dozens of different microservices. They tell you the flow and where a bottleneck or latency was introduced.
So Datadog's core product is the unified platform that connects all three of those data types into one single cohesive narrative.
That's the magic.
Okay, so if they're providing this comprehensive observability, what are the primary product categories that engineering teams are actually buying from them?
The portfolio, it really covers the entire application and infrastructure lifecycle. The foundation is still infrastructure monitoring, tracking the basic health of containers, servers, cloud resources.
The bread and butter.
The bread and butter. But their growth required expanding vertically. So they offer network performance monitoring and network device monitoring. This is essential because in distributed systems, the network latency between all those little microservices often accounts for the vast majority of performance degradation.
Right. It's not the code, it's the wire between the services.
Often, yes.
And their expansion seems to have perfectly mirrored the big technology shifts happening in the cloud.
Exactly. As organizations adopted serverless architectures, where code runs in these ephemeral functions that might exist for just milliseconds, they needed serverless monitoring.
Because traditional agent-based monitoring wouldn't work there.
It fails completely. The function is gone before the agent can even report back. So Datadog adapted, providing visibility into transient workloads like AWS Lambda, allowing customers to track execution time, cold starts, things like that.
And critically, they also moved into cost control.
Yes, with cloud cost management, this was a brilliant move. You simply can't separate performance from financial expenditure in the cloud. Tracking your resource usage meticulously right alongside your technical performance, it's mandatory for maintaining cost effectiveness and avoiding those, shocking monthly bills.
Okay, that's what they sell. Now for the engine room, the how. Datadog has to ingest, analyze, and visualize just petabytes of data from thousands of customers in real time. What's the technical architecture that enables that kind of scale?
The architecture is really defined by two key parts, the agent and the backend stack. The agent is the lightweight piece of software that lives on the client's infrastructure.
So you install this on your servers?
Correct. It pulls for metrics, it collects logs, it gathers traces, it acts as the local data collector and transmission unit.
And there's an interesting history to the agent itself, isn't there?
There is. It was originally Python-based. It was actually derived from a fork of the agent used by a company called Server Density back in 2009.
And Python is great for quick development, but
when you're dealing with massive scale and you need really low memory overhead and high efficiency across thousands and thousands of machines, constraints start to appear. It's just not built for that kind of hyper-efficient performance.
Which is why the massive rewriting effort in 2018 was so incredibly significant.
Yes. For their major version 6.0.0, released in February 2018, the Datadog agent was rewritten entirely in Go.
Go, or Golang.
Right. And this is a really crucial detail for you, the learner. Go excels at high-performance concurrent processing, which makes it absolutely ideal for the agent. It has a tiny memory footprint, and it compiles into a single binary. That means it's fast to deploy, and it runs with minimal impact on the monitored application itself.
So it's not slowing down with the thing it's supposed to be watching.
Exactly. This transition to Go allowed Datadog to significantly increase the volume and the frequency of data collection without burdening the customer's own resources.
Okay, so the efficient Go agent gathers the data. Now let's talk about that massive analytical engine that has to process this incoming torrent of metrics, logs, and traces. What's powering the backend stack?
The backend stack uses a powerful mixed architecture. It leverages the best of both open and closed source technology. When you're dealing with time series data metrics arriving every single second, you need specialized systems built for high-velocity ingestion and retrieval.
Right.
And that's where components like Apache Cassandra and Kafka come into play.
Let's elaborate on those two, because they really define cloud-scale data processing. Why Kafka? Why Cassandra?
So Kafka is the circulatory system. It's a distributed event streaming platform, and it's used to handle the extreme velocity of incoming data.
It's like a shock absorber for the data fire hose.
That's a great way to put it. Metrics and logs arrive constantly, and Kafka ensures that none of these data points are lost. It acts as a highly durable sequential buffer. This is essential for time series data, which is meaningless if the events are out of order or, worse, just dropped.
And Cassandra for the storage aspect.
Yes. Apache Cassandra is a highly scalable, distributed NoSQL database.
Huh.
It's perfect for the sheer volume of data, especially logs and metrics, because it handles writes and eventual consistency extremely well across multiple data centers.
So it can grow as big as they need it to.
Infinitely, for all practical purposes. It allows Datadog to store trillions of time-stamped events and retrieve them with very low latency for visualization, which is critical when an engineer is in the middle of a firefight, debugging an ongoing outage.
And they use other things too, right?
Oh, sure. They also use PostgreSQL for more structured data and things like D3 for generating those rich, interactive dashboards that the users rely on.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because all this sophisticated back-end tech is basically useless if they can't connect to the user's entire environment. Their competitive advantage, their moat, is arguably the breadth of their integration ecosystem.
That is their definitive competitive moat, and the scale of it is just staggering. As of October 2024, the company supports over 750 integrations.
750.
Just think about that number. A modern enterprise tech stack isn't just AWS and a database. It involves dozens of niche tools, specific caches like Redis or Memcached, various container orchestrators like Kubernetes, esoteric security scanners, queuing systems like RabbitMQ. The list goes on and on.
So for a potential customer who's evaluating Datadog versus a competitor, the number of integrations, it massively reduces the cost and complexity of adoption.
Absolutely. It dramatically lowers the switching cost. If you're an enterprise with a highly customized tech stack, you do not want to assign an engineering team to write custom collection code for every single component.
It would take years.
It would. With Datadog, the integration for your specific MongoDB version or your custom web server is likely already written, tested, and maintained by Datadog. This breadth of connectivity, it turns Datadog into the universal data translator for infrastructure health. And it just solidifies their position as the de facto observability standard.
The technology explains the utility, but the massive growth, that explains the valuation. This company, it wasn't content to just dominate New York. They were aiming for global scale, almost from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
So let's look at the physical and the financial scaling velocity.
The physical scaling gives you immediate evidence of their commitment to growth. They recognized that a global market presence required global talent. So they established a dedicated research and development office in Paris in 2015.
Tapping into that European engineering expertise.
Exactly. And back in New York, the demand for physical space quickly became a symbol of their rapid ascension within the city's tech ecosystem.
Right. In 2016, they moved their New York City headquarters into a full floor of the iconic New York Times building.
A move that really symbolized their graduation from a startup to a major enterprise fixture. And crucially, they needed that space because the team literally doubled over the course of that one single year.
Wow.
And by 2024, the headcount explosion had stabilized at around 6,500 employees, which reflects the massive operational support required for a $2.68 billion revenue business.
And their global footprint reflects that enterprise client base.
Yeah.
I mean, offices spanning North America, Europe, Paris, Dublin, Amsterdam, and the APAC region with Japan, Australia, Singapore. They're building a follow-the-sun operation to serve global enterprises.
And this massive expansion was fueled by a rapid sequence of increasingly larger funding rounds, each one marking a new stage of validation and scaling ambition.
Let's just recount those financial milestones leading up to the IPO. The initial validation came pretty early.
Following that seed round we mentioned, they secured a substantial $6.2 million Series A in 2012. It was co-led by Index Ventures and RTP Ventures. This really validated their initial product market fit. Then by 2014, the product was clearly resonating. That led to a $15 million Series B led by OpenView Venture Partners. That money was likely deployed to accelerate their sales and marketing infrastructure.
And then we see the shift into, hyperscale funding, which is what's necessary to fund global R&D and really go for market dominance.
The acceleration is just evident. $31 million for a Series C in 2015, again with Index Ventures participating heavily. Then, the pivotal $94.5 million Series D in 2016, led by IConiQ Capital.
And that was a huge round for New York at the time.
It was noteworthy, one of the largest funding events in the New York City tech scene that year. This capital infusion, it signaled that Datadog was no longer just scaling up. It was preparing for a massive, potentially global public market entry.
All that strategic funding led to this high-stakes, almost cinematic moment that perfectly encapsulated the founders' conviction in their market opportunity.
This is maybe the most telling anecdote about Datadog's belief in its own future. So prior to their IPO in September 2019, the company was the subject of a massive acquisition attempt
By Cisco.
by Cisco, who offered over $7 billion to buy Datadog outright.
$7 billion. Offered by a networking and infrastructure titan like Cisco. I mean, that would have provided immediate liquidity and reduced risk for every single investor and founder.
Everybody would have been very rich.
And yet, they rejected it. What does that decision tell you about their internal assessment of the observability market?
I mean, it just speaks volumes about the exponential growth they foresaw. They were essentially betting that the total addressable market, the TAM for unified cloud observability, was so massive, and their market share position so dominant that going public and maintaining independent control would yield a valuation significantly higher than $7 billion in the very near term.
It was a calculated risk.
A huge one, based on supreme confidence in the durability of the cloud adoption curve.
And the market, it validated that belief almost instantly. Let's look at the IPO.
The public debut on Nasdaq, September 19th, 2019, it was a blockbuster event. They raised $648 million by selling 24 million shares, which valued the company at $8.7 billion at the initial offering price.
So already way over the Cisco offer.
Before the market even opened. And crucially, the public investors shared the founders' confidence. The stock price surged by approximately 37% on the first day of trading.
Incredible.
Catapulting the market capitalization to nearly $10 billion by market close. The rejection of the $7 billion offer was proven shrewd within hours.
So their independent trajectory was deemed to be worth 30% more than the acquisition offer before the first full day of trading was even complete. That level of conviction is just, it's rare.
It is, and their subsequent performance has really solidified their transition from a high-growth disruptor to an industry staple. Being selected for the S&P 500, which is slated for July 2025, that's not just a badge of honor, it has really practical implications.
How so?
Well, many passive index funds and institutional portfolios, they track the S&P 500. It means that Datadog stock becomes a mandatory holding for a huge segment of the investment community, which guarantees demand and further stability. It's the ultimate recognition of maturity, size, and financial health.
So let's review that financial health using the latest available data. What are the metrics that support this kind of prestige?
The 2024 figures, they confirm continuous operational strength. Revenue reached $2.68 billion, and while they continue to invest very heavily in R&D and acquisitions, they still maintain profitability. Operating income is reported at $54 million in 2024, and if you look back at the previous year, they had a significant net income of $184 million in 2023.
And the balance sheet, I assume, reflects a stable, massive operation.
It does. Total assets are reported at $5.79 billion, which significantly outweighs their liabilities, and their total equity is at $2.71 billion. These are the metrics of a mature, well-capitalized enterprise that is successfully navigating that transition from rapid scale-up to sustained growth and profitability.
That level of financial discipline is impressive, but given their massive acquisition pace, which we are about to dive into, how are they managing the internal integration of so many different corporate cultures and technology stacks? Because that is often a major pitfall in tech growth. Is there any evidence of friction there?
That is the critical question, and you're right to ask it. The high frequency of M&A inherently carries integration risk, both technically and culturally. The key strategy Datadog appears to employ is focusing on acquisitions that are either, one, highly specialized niche solutions that can be quickly integrated into their Go-based agent and Kafka backend.
Things like Logmatic or Ozcode.
Exactly. Or two, tools focused on workflow and collaboration, like CoScreen, that just improve the core product's stickiness. Their continued financial success suggests they have been largely effective at swallowing these new technologies without internal rejection. They seem to be focusing on unifying the data and the user experience above all else. They are acquiring pieces of the DevOps workflow, not competing platforms.
That strategic focus on integration is the perfect segue. We've established that Datadog solved that initial monitoring problem. But to become an observability powerhouse, they realized they needed to control the entire workflow, from code analysis and security all the way to A/B testing and business impact. And they achieved this by systematically acquiring specialized technology.
This acquisition timeline, it's not just a list of purchases. You should really see it as a blueprint for market consolidation. It shows Datadog's calculated, very disciplined move to achieve true full-stack monitoring and unify data across every single technical function.
So let's start with the immediate need they had post-initial growth, bridging that gap between the time series metrics and the logs.
The early focus was all about maximizing data utility. So in February 2015, they acquired a company called Mortar Data. This was key because it moved them beyond just raw metric visualization and into advanced analytics. It allowed users to perform deeper statistical analysis on their performance data.
Laying the foundation.
It laid the foundation for sophisticated correlation analysis.
And then came the critical need for logging, which was really driven by the shift toward microservices.
Yeah, that gap was filled in September 2017 with the acquisition of Logmatic. Previously, metrics and logs lived in totally separate silos, often managed by different teams using different tools.
Right.
The rise of microservices meant application events and troubleshooting contexts were just exploding in volume, which required centralized log management. Logmatic provided a robust platform-agnostic service for querying and visualizing logs, allowing an engineer to correlate a CPU spike, which is metric data,
with the exact error message that caused it, which is the log data.
Exactly. A huge step toward true unified observability.
Okay, so the next phase, starting around 2019, shows Datadog recognizing that they needed to shift left to get visibility and control earlier in the development lifecycle, moving into application testing and security.
Exactly. They wanted to prevent problems before they were ever deployed. February 2019 brought the acquisition of Madumbo, an AI-based application testing platform. This was a proactive move. Instead of just monitoring failure, they could use AI to test new features against performance baselines before they went live.
So integrating observability directly into the testing phase.
Right. And the focus on the developer workflow continued, especially around how code moves into production.
That's where Undefined Labs came in.
In August 2020, they acquired Undefined Labs. This specifically focused on testing and observability for the CI/CD pipeline, the developer workflows. It deepened their ability to track code changes, testing results, and deployment health, ensuring that observability data wasn't just infrastructure-centric, but deeply connected to the actual code being deployed.
And then came the heavy strategic investment in security, recognizing that, security visibility is just another form of operational data.
That was a huge insight. Security is no longer a perimeter defense. It lives inside the application code itself. So in February 2021, they acquired Screen, a robust application security platform.
This was a massive move.
A massive move. It immediately bundled advanced security monitoring like RASP or runtime application self-protection into the Datadog platform. It meant customers no longer needed a separate security dashboard. Vulnerability data, threat detection, performance metrics, they could all be viewed together, which really streamlined security operations.
And following up on that application visibility, they doubled down on debugging solutions.
Yeah, in November 2021, they acquired Ozcode. This focused on solving the immediate problem of failure in production. Ozcode provided a live debugging solution with code-level visibility, so an alert could fire, and the engineer could immediately see the exact variables and the stack trace at the moment of failure without needing to reproduce the bug locally.
Which, again, just crushes that mean time to resolution we talked about.
Drastically reduces it.
Yeah.
And their commitment to continuous security testing was solidified even further in 2022.
Right. May 2022, they acquired HDFE Security.
Yes, adding more security testing software, particularly focused on preventing runtime vulnerabilities in the deployed application. Again, this just reinforced the belief that security validation has to be an integral, continuous part of the full observability loop, not a once-a-month scan.
Okay, moving into advanced observability and collaboration, the focus seems to shift to internal efficiency and architectural visualization for these really complex API-driven environments.
August 2022 brought Secret, an API observability platform. As applications decomposed into dozens or hundreds of microservices, the APIs themselves became the critical failure points.
The connections between them.
The connections. Secret allowed engineering teams to monitor the performance, the health, and the contract enforcement of every single internal and external API endpoint. It provided visibility into the digital glue holding their architecture together.
And then a slightly unconventional acquisition for a monitoring company. Collaboration software.
Right. October 2022, the acquisition of CoScreen. This is pure workflow optimization. If an alert fires, engineers need to collaborate instantly, sharing screens, terminals, code. CoScreen provided that robust, real-time collaboration tool, integrating directly into the incident response workflow.
So it's an acquisition focused on reducing that initial DevOps friction by making real-time problem solving just seamless.
Exactly.
And for organizations dealing with massive, sprawling cloud infrastructure, architectural understanding is just a constant battle.
That's where Cloudcraft came in. They were acquired in November 2022. Cloudcraft specializes in infrastructure modeling. It allows users to dynamically create and maintain architecture diagrams based on real-time data from their cloud accounts.
So it's always up to date.
Always. For an enterprise with an immense, constantly changing AWS or Azure footprint, Cloudcraft automated the visualization of what talks to what, integrating that visual mapping directly into the monitoring data. It's invaluable for incident response and compliance checks.
Their final acquisitions in 2023 showed a deepening commitment to static analysis and also business integration.
In April 2023, they acquired Codiga, focusing on static code analysis across the development lifecycle. This is the ultimate shift-left move. It's about catching issues like performance anti-patterns, security flaws, or code maintainability problems right as the developer writes the code, long before it even enters the CI/CD pipeline.
And then bridging that technical data with the business office.
That was the November 2023 acquisition of ActionDesk. ActionDesk is a cloud-based spreadsheet application that integrates directly with live data sources, including Datadog's own massive data stores.
Wow.
This bridges the gap between raw monitoring data and business analytics. Non-engineering teams, product managers, finance, operations leads, they can now leverage Datadog's data without needing direct access to complex dashboards.
So they can answer questions like, how did the cost of running this specific feature change after the last deployment?
Precisely.
The strategy is just undeniably comprehensive. It's to acquire the tools necessary to make Datadog the single pane of glass for all technical and operational data, from the initial line of code to the final financial ledger.
It creates an incredibly powerful flywheel effect. The more parts of the business Datadog observes, the harder it is to rip out and replace.
And this holistic strategy is fully exemplified by their most forward-looking acquisitions, the one scheduled for 2025, which really demonstrate where they see the future of observability leading.
Right, to AI and advanced experimentation.
These two 2025 acquisitions, they signal a move beyond traditional IT and into data reliability and business optimization.
It's a whole new frontier for them.
Let's start with Metaplane, scheduled for April 2025. What does AI-powered data observability even mean?
This signals a strategic shift from monitoring the health of the application to monitoring the health of the data itself. As companies increasingly rely on massive, complex data pipelines for crucial business intelligence and machine learning models, if the data is wrong, the business decision is wrong.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. Metaplane uses AI to monitor data quality. This includes tracking data freshness. Is the pipeline running on time? Volume, are we processing the expected number of records? And schema changes, did someone accidentally rename a column and break all the downstream dashboards?
So integrating this into existing platform means an engineer can now see if an application deployment broke the data pipeline and the application all in one place.
All in one place. It connects the two worlds.
And the final acquisition listed, Eppo, scheduled for June 2025. This one seems to push Datadog directly into the product management and business optimization space.
Eppo is a game changer. It provides experimentation infrastructure. It integrates a modern data stack, AI features, and critically, tools derived from causal inference literature.
Okay, for the learner, what does that mean? Causal inference.
This is the key differentiator. Traditional A/B testing can show you a correlation. After we launched Feature X, sales went up.
Right. But you don't know if Feature X caused it.
You don't know for sure. Causal inference, however, uses rigorous statistical methods to prove that Feature X caused the business outcome, isolating the impact and eliminating all the other noise.
So Datadog is moving into a role where they can not only ensure the feature deploys safely and performs efficiently, but also help the product team scientifically analyze its actual business impact. Did it increase conversion? Did it decrease churn?
Precisely. It closes the entire loop. They acquire the whole journey. A developer uses Codiga to write secure code, deploys it via undefined labs, monitors its performance and security using the core Datadog platform and screen, monitors the data quality using Metaplane, and finally analyzes the true causal impact on the business using Eppo.
It transforms Datadog from a system maintenance tool into an enterprise optimization engine.
That's what they're building.
The acquisition timeline is a truly remarkable testament to a unified, long-term strategic vision. Hashtag outro. So what does this all mean? Okay, so we've traced Datadog from its origins, solving that internal organizational friction, all the way to its current status as a billion-dollar public giant defined by these strategic acquisitions. Let's summarize the key takeaways for you, the learner.
Datadog's explosive growth was really contingent on perfect timing. They solved that dev versus ops conflict by creating a single, unified pane of glass for metrics, logs, and traces. That made these distributed cloud environments finally manageable. That was the fundamental insight that let them capture the market.
And furthermore, the company's decade-long M&A timeline is not haphazard at all. It's a disciplined, strategic move to unify data across every technical silo monitoring, testing, security, the developer workflow, everything. This continuous expansion justifies their massive valuation because they're now selling not just a product, but a necessary integrated operating system for the modern cloud enterprise.
They moved from being a monitoring tool to an observability platform, and now I think you can argue they're transitioning into a business intelligence and operational optimization platform. They own the data required to answer nearly every critical technical and financial question within a modern organization.
So what does this all mean?
It means Datadog defined and now dominates a field that is only growing in importance. As businesses become 100% digital, the ability to see, to understand, and to troubleshoot these distributed systems is just foundational to survival. Their success demonstrates the immense financial value created by solving complex organizational inefficiencies through superior integrated data visibility and operational control.
And here's the final provocative thought for you, the learner. Something to mull on. The company famously bet against a $7 billion acquisition from Cisco, and they won big, demonstrating absolute confidence in the future of unified observability. Given their strategic move into AI-powered data quality with Metaplane and advanced business experimentation with EPO, they are clearly expanding the definition of what they do. If they're moving into data governance and causal business inference, how far will the boundaries of observability be pushed in the future? What new operational category, maybe IT finance optimization or regulatory compliance, will they swallow next to integrate even more deeply into the enterprise decision-making workflow?
They've proven that they are willing to buy the entire loop. The real question is, where does that loop end?
The consolidation continues, and we are tracking every step. We hope you feel thoroughly informed and ready to discuss the Datadog journey with confidence. That was the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.